Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Ikenna Ofoha for CNC Labs. This is LaserBeam Live. This is episode number 44. You know the deal, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, or night. I appreciate you spending just a little bit of your time with me. Let's go. What are we doing today? We are doing some very simple stuff. We're just engraving. Yeah, we're just engraving some stuff. Sorry. I have my headphones in. Let me take those out. We're going to be doing some very simple engraving today, but we're going to use this as an opportunity to test some settings and play around with some settings within Lightburn as we cut. So we have a bunch of this pre-cut plywood straight from Home Depot, quarter inch. We're not going to be cutting, we're just going to be engraving, but it is quarter inch, just some regular plywood. It's about 70 millimeters by about 50 millimeters. And I finally remembered to bring the 3-element lens. Okay, I've grabbed the 3-element lens before I left the office today. So we will be using the 3-element lens for this stream. So who's in the chat? We got Jack in the shop. He was here 3 days ago. Laser Demon, 3 days ago. That's what we call punctuality. Dana, Bill, Nicholas, Doug, how are you guys all doing? Hopefully you guys had a few good weeks while I was away, while the stream was in hibernation, but we are back today. Company news, oatmeal supply chain is moving forward. We shipped out all of the SLB boards, I believe except two. We shipped out every order of SLB but two, so that's very exciting. Chris has been putting a lot of work into the customer service, same as Jay, our head of customer service. Myself, if you guys have any laser issues with the SLB and you reach out, you'll be talking to me. I'll make sure you get up and running. Yeah, so that's what's happening at the office. It's been pretty business as usual until stuff starts arriving, until we start doing some assembly line work, some organization of the shop in order to accompany the new alt mill setup, the new alt mill production line. Things are going to be pretty business as usual. For the CO2 laser, we filmed an update video. We also filmed a metal guitar video with the alt mill, so that's exciting. I believe I'm going to drop the CO2 laser development update next week, Tuesday, I believe. I'm gonna try to get it Tuesday. I'm trying to get a landing page all set up right now, so you have one place that you can check out all the updates, sign up for the email list, check out all the new updated YouTube videos. It'll just be one page that kind of is like a catch-all. We'll have a lot of the information that you guys have been asking for, and kind of a place that can update as the project updates. But we did, myself and our engineer Daniel, we talked about our first production update or development update. Oh, that sucks, Nicholas. You might need to try some different try some different tote bag, because I was able to do this, and this was just some generic cotton tote bag off Amazon. And it did take some settings, getting the settings in right, but it did end up working. So Nicholas, he wasn't really able to get his tote bag last. So the last stream we engraved a tote bag. If you weren't here, oh no, I'm sorry, Nicholas. Maybe you could try playing with some settings. You might even want to try jacking up the speed, but I'm sure you tried a bunch of stuff. You might just need to try some different things, or just try googling some things. Get into some message boards. I'm sure you're not the first person to have some trouble engraving some tote bags, and I'm sure there are some tips and tricks that even I don't know, and maybe you can find that out. Fingers crossed, hopefully you can get one done, because it is a cool project. I really like the one that we did, and we did burn a hole through it, but the rest of it, it actually did look really cool, and I did like it, so it was a cool project. Go check that one out if you missed it. Jack in the Shop says he burnt out a laser driver on the original longboard. He ordered a replacement on Amazon. Very sorry to hear that. Yeah, that was the whole point of developing the super longboard. We wanted to give some reliability to the longboard controller, and the SLB is it. Okay, so sorry to hear that. It's the nature of the game when you're dealing with electronics and stuff, but yeah, that sucks. I do have tomorrow is our my co-op student's last day, Abeku, and he's been doing some great work. He did a lot of testing with, this is the current design of our little magnetic mount. So currently it bolts on where the laser bolts on. and you have 5 magnets. These are the same magnets we use on the dust shoe because we wanted to keep the supply chain very simple. And then here are some studs, some bolted studs that screws into. You have a lock nut that gets hammered in, press fit in, and then you have these threaded studs that give you an aligner to your actual laser mount. So these make the magnets attach to the steel plate, but these give you the alignment of the original mounts up here. So they line up to the actual mounts on your laser, and with all these magnets, it is enough to support everything with the air assist, and we have been testing it. But the one thing that we're finding with our testing is that around 5,000 millimeters per second, whether you're bolted on or whether you're doing the magnetic mount, you do get wavy lines when you're engraving. So that just seems like to be the top speed for even using your bolted mounts on your long mill. You don't really want to go faster than 5,000 millimeters per minute. And the super longboard is capable of taking your OG long mill to that speed because with certain tuning of the motors and the drivers, it's able to max out at about 5,000. So even there, you want to be aware, even if you're bolting in your laser, you have the original mount, you want to be aware that like around 5,000, you're going to start to see some inconsistencies in the line work in your engraving. So that we actually found that out by testing the magnetic mount, and we were finding that it didn't matter past 5,000 whether you use the magnetic mount or your regular mount, you were getting these weird lines. So that's something that we'll have in the resource page eventually when we put this up. But yeah, it's nice. It has some weight to it. It's 3D printed, 5 magnets bolted in, some studs for aligning your laser, and it comes off really quickly. So all you have to do is unplug your laser, bolt it off the magnetic mount, you're good to go. Run it under 5,000 millimeters per second or millimeters per minute, and you're all good. Whether that's with the alt mill or the long mill, you're only going to want to run it around 5,000 millimeters per second. So yeah, very exciting stuff. I think he did a great job in designing this. I wouldn't have had the time to design this, so I'm very glad he was able to work on this, and I'll probably put the finishing touches on it and then get it released in the next month. So stay tuned for the LaserBeam magnetic mount, and as well the development update for the laser. We finally have it working, so we're going to show some video of that. I'm working on getting air assist through the drag chains and everything so we can get even better cuts, and then we can start doing projects on our prototype and start improving the prototype. Talking to a bunch of safety companies, so that's very exciting. I can already feel how expensive all those tests are going to be, but that's just the name of the game when you're trying to sell a laser product. So, all right, let's get into it. It's not going to be a super long stream, guys. I think you guys understand the gist of what we're doing here. If you're new to the stream and you have any questions, feel free to throw those in the chat. But we're just going to be testing a bunch of different settings in terms of our engraving. So let's pop open Lightburn. And as you can see, I got a picture of Zeus. There's a little sticking his little tongue out. And I have a bunch of this text that is helping track the quality. So I'm going to put, version 1. So let's take a look at the settings. So if I double click on the image, first let's improve our contrast so that it comes out better. So we click on the image and we go to adjust image, and then we play with the contrast. So we can raise contrast like that. As we want the darks to be super dark. We want the lights to be super light. We can lower that brightness a little bit. Play with the contrast here. Play with the gamma. Ooh, that's a little bit too much. So I feel like that's pretty good. Do it. Let's see what enhanced radius does. Yeah, you know what? Let's keep it very simple. And then when I click on the settings here of our image, I'm going to go 25 millimeters per second and 100% power. and DPI line interval is, so these are attached, right? So if I raise DPI, it's a little lower line interval. So I'm just going to go off line interval or DPI because it's an easier setting to record. So right now it's 254. So we're going to leave it there. We have Jarvis selected. All right, so I'm going to save these settings. 25 and 100. And this fill is for the text, so I'm going to put 25 and 100. And then I'm going to fill in this text here. So this is going to be Jarvis DPI is going to be 254. So 254. Power is 100 and speed is 25. So I'm just going to arrange the text a little better. So we can keep track and we can just play around. I'm not expecting anything. I'm just looking to play around. So we'll play with these settings. So we will save that. So this is just this outline is just the size of my wood using T1 tool. So it's not actually going to output anything. We can save this G code and we will call it dog template version 1. And I encourage you guys to make these types of files at home. If you guys are looking to, get a specific look, or you just want to play around and you want to, the easiest way to learn what your laser can do and what how to kind of guess outputs is going to be to run tests like this, where you just, change a bunch of settings and you kind of dial in what happens when you change certain settings, and then you start to build a almost like sixth sense for what your settings are going to do. So I'm going to import that into GSender. All right, so got to just play with some things here. So we're job origin. Just going to save that again. Dog template, replace. And then we're going to reload that. There we go. Correct origin point. So I am using the 3-element lens. So just keep that in mind. All of these are going to be on the 3-element lens. I'm going to zero all. I'm pretty focused at the moment with the 3-element. I used my focus finder, find the height, and then I just dialed it in. We have our text, we have our image. Let's run it. And if we don't like it, then we'll run it again with some change settings. So let me show you guys. Get a good angle there. Okay. And let's run this file. We have a lot of burning. I'm going to stop it. I just want to double check my EEPROM settings and make sure we're all good there. It might just be that the bottom of the file is so dark. But we should be getting this like dotting on and off pattern here, and it just it might just be so dark that it's not turning off, but I just want to double check because it didn't really look so I'm actually just going to raise the speed. I'll change the file here. Now it might be just turning on and off because it's dark at a very fast rate, right? But to me it seemed like it wasn't turning off completely, which is like with this image style, like it should be like on off, very fast rate. Unlock this, I'm going to go to 0. Actually just going to raise this a little bit. No 0 at all. I'm going to open up this new one. Oh, we lost the image a little bit. I don't know what happened there, but we were able to see this before, but not anymore. Let's see what happens when we start the job. It still seems like, it almost seems like the image, like this is how I would expect grayscale to process the image, because in grayscale it never actually turns on or turns off. It just varies the power. And that's kind of how it seems now, but it shouldn't. It should be like turning on and off, but that, I'm not 100% sure why that's happening. So while this is running, I'm just double checking my EEPROM settings here. All right. As it goes, I think we might just have the power too high. So I guess for the next test, we're just going to run it at 50% power and see what happens, see if that changes things. And then we'll do version 1.2. Yeah, it's not really like a very detailed image. So lowering DPI might actually produce a better result. But we'll use this as a baseline and then we'll adjust from there. That's the whole point of doing these cards, is that we can adjust. So I'll go to what Dana recommends, which is 180 DPI. And then, so I'll change that as well. Which will also speed things up because you're raising the line interval. Lines per inch is essentially the same thing as dots per inch, so I'll map those. And then I'll save that. And this will be the next one that we run, version 1.2. So lower DPI, lower power, higher 480 speed, which is what we're running here. I just want to double check one thing. I also just think we might be totally out of focus right now, so I might want to redo the focus because I feel like we need something usable before we start dialing in settings. So let's stop this. Let's open up our next file. Let's go to 0. Let's use this as our waste material in order to focus, and then we'll flip it upside down. So let's make sure we're all in focus here. Okay, we're pretty in focus right now. I'm gonna flip it upside down. Let's take a look. Yeah, it looks like a giant blob. So let's figure out what's happening here. So we refocused. Let's put it at our starting point that we want. All right. Yeah, you can always run it at 100% and then speed it up. But I don't mind playing with both here. Just gonna zero it all. And let's start the job and let's see if we have a different output here. So obviously we're going much faster. But are we gonna get a better image? If that doesn't work, we're gonna go check out our EEPROM settings and make sure everything there is aligned. Yeah, that's a good rule. Never run a CO2 laser at 100%. That's a quick way to burn the tube, cause issues. I've never really had that big of an issue running Jarvis. Like, it's always like very, very... It's always good quality, it's always detailed. But I don't usually use the 3-element lens, so I'm getting used to a new lens essentially, new characteristics of the lens. Sorry if this is a boring stream, guys. We're just running laser tests. Yeah, it's definitely smoking. So I can see a lot more detail here. It's just not as good as maybe I would like it, but that might be even image processing, right? The only thing is I don't really want to change the image processing now. Because then I wouldn't have a good starting point to start referencing things off. So that's actually not too bad. I have a feeling it's just the image wasn't contrasted enough in like the central area. So his face plus the couch is just a little bit too dark and wasn't like the features weren't made to pop enough. So obviously it's engraving and it looks pretty good, and I'll show you guys after. Max speed for the long mill is about 4,000 millimeters per minute, which is 67 millimeters per second. With the SLB, you can hit around 5,000 millimeters per minute. But again, I wouldn't recommend that for the laser. Doesn't matter what mount you have, you might run into quality issues at that speed. 5,000 would be like absolute max, and I would definitely double check your lines and make sure that they're not a little bit wavy, you're not getting that deflection. So what do we want to change now? So let's do version 3. Let's try 25% power. And let's try a different processing. let's try. So this is going to be 25% power, and let's try let's try newsprint, okay, just because that would be interesting, and I don't think I've tried that before. So let's try newsprint. So if you think about a newspaper, that's the type of image that it's gonna try to engrave in that style. I think if I double click, sorry, let me get out of this, and then I think if I hit this and preview, so that's how it's gonna look. So it's a bit weird, but let's give it a try. Oh, our text. Oh no, we made this too. Oh, I made this 90. It's actually 70. So some of our text is cutting off to the side. So I actually need to make this smaller. So just need to make this text a bit smaller to fit. All right. So I'm going to save that. Let's take a look. Actually looks pretty good. I'm going to leave it in there, and let's run this one. And then once, right before the end of the stream, I'll take them all out, and we can take a look at them. So we'll call this 1.3. So we lowered the power again. We left the speed alone. We left the DPI alone. We changed the image style. So let's save that as 1.3. Max speed of the alt mill, I believe, is like, it's like 12, I think 16,000 millimeters per minute. It's extremely fast, okay? I think it's 4 times faster than the long mill, so I think about 16,000 millimeters per minute. Okay, so this is this weird newsprint style engraving, so let's see how that turns out. Let's reset our Y here. All right, let's zero it all. And then let's start the job. So for this next one, I'm actually going to raise the DPI back to 254. I'm going to go to 75% power. I'm going to go 50 speed. I'm going to change the image processing to Stucky. And then the last one we're going to do is going to be grayscale, and then we'll just keep changing settings up. Change the settings up. So this will be 1.4. So Stucky, I don't know how to pronounce it, but Stucki, I believe. It is another dotting pattern, very similar to the Jarvising dot pattern, but we'll see if we can notice any differences. So we raise the DPI, we raise the power, we raise the speed, we change the processing type. So we'll see how that turns out. And then once we do these three, I'm going to flip them, and then we're going to run another 3 settings if we have enough time. We'll run as many as we can in the next 20 minutes. I think these files are only about 5 minutes, so we should have enough time to run a total of 6 tests, and then we can just see all the differences. The newsprint actually looks pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. Looks very much like the comic book newspaper-esque style printing. I like it a lot. Let's see if there's any other interesting image processing, just so we can, I don't know, maybe we can, oh, first let me save this. I don't know if I save this as 1.4. So let me save this as 1.4. Yeah, so 5,000 might be just too fast for some projects. So what do we want to try here? So first we got to change the. Oh, let me resave that because I did not actually change the speed and power. So this actually should be 7550, and then this should be 254. And then same thing for our image. 7550, 254. And then I'm going to resave this as 1.4. I kind of forgot what we have for, that's 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. Okay, yeah. 1.4, save, replace. And then we will build 1.5 right now. So let's see. Let's lower the speed back down to 40. Let's lower the power down to 50. We'll leave that there, and then we'll change the image processing style. So we'll find something interesting. So we got threshold, so that's too weird. Ordered, that's a little weird. Good for cartoon or simple unshaded images. Atkins, a good in-between for solid color and smooth shaded images. Dither. Oh, so this says it's good for images. So maybe we could try Dither, half tone, sketch, and grayscale. Definitely want to throw a grayscale in there. This might not be the best image to do grayscale because it is. Yeah, it's very hard to use. So we'll use Dither for this one. Then maybe we'll do grayscale last. Hey, we got Scott in the chat. How you doing, Scott? Tree Ring Circus. Scott has played with the alt mill. I think they just finished the metal guitar project yesterday. Some of our engineers have been working on that. All right, we got version 2 just about done. So I will change the settings on this, and then I'll save this as 1.5. So we got 50, 40, 255 dither, and then 50, 40, 255. Okay, so that's good. Save this as 1.5, and then let's run 1.4 right now. So let's move this up. Let's find our starting point here. That's good enough. Zero it all. Let's load our file. We just ran 1.3, so now we're running 1.4. Let's run that. Also running much faster now. Then we have 1.5. So now so that's actually running really fast at 50 millimeters per second. So for 1.6, I don't know what we should make. So, okay, let's do grayscale because we haven't done that yet. I'm going to lower the power for grayscale because I don't want, it can get really dark. So again, I'm going to go 25. Yeah, Kenny. With third-party lasers and the SLB, we don't have too much support for that. I don't spend a lot of time playing with other laser drivers, so I'm not 100% sure how they work. But you can send in a ticket, and if I know anything, you send in your some info. And if I know anything that can help you, I will definitely share that information. But I just can't promise anything like full support wise, like that I could get you up and running again, because I just don't know how the other drivers are gonna interpret the signal. It is just a regular PWM signal at 1,000 kilohertz, so it should be fine. I don't know why it wouldn't be determining the signal. So yeah, you can send in a ticket and I can take a look and send some pictures, send some information, and I'll see. But if I can't figure it out, you might just have to reach out to the company, tell them, tell them that the signal type is a PWM signal at 1 kilohertz frequency, and then ask them why it wouldn't be working on their end. You can also send me the Lightburn file that you're trying to run as well, and I can maybe take a look at that. But yeah, that is going to be the way things go. Guys, I know some of you guys have third-party lasers and you guys reach out, and you know that if I can help, I will. I just can't spend a bunch of time and effort on it because it's just not something that we cover completely. Like I would have to test a lot of the most popular lasers, and if we had more resources, I definitely would. And I would do it vice versa, where I would test our laser on an X-Carb and a Shapeoko, so that their customers could also order our laser if they wanted to. But yeah, just time and resources. That's essentially what it comes down to. And I wish I could do like maybe even one day I'll do the top 5 most popular lasers. But I did a lot of my early testing with the JTech driver, and theirs is really good and interprets the signal exactly how ours does. So yeah, so send in a ticket, send me a bunch of information, your the file that's causing the issue, all of that stuff, and some pictures would help, and the model name, and then I'll give it a try. Oh yeah, the Lightburn forum is absolutely great. Okay, whenever I run into laser issues, I always, whether that's CO2 or diode, I always end up in the Lightburn forum. They really, for lasers, I don't think there's a better laser forum than the Lightburn forum. I'm gonna be very, very honest. All right, so this last file is finishing up. They actually look really nice. I think our first one was just way too powerful, so it was just way too dark. So now I'm going to flip these upside down. Except this one, I'm going to take this one out because we already did the other side. All right, let's start the process all over again. So what was that? That was 1.234. So now we're on 1.5. So oh yeah, guys, don't get it twisted. Sometimes you guys send me tickets, and then I end up in the Lightburn forum researching, and then I'm like compiling. I'm compiling a bunch of information and links and YouTube videos, and then I'm sending it to you guys, and I'm like learning on the fly. Sometimes when I don't have a direct answer for your question, guys, I'm doing the exact same thing. So there's no shame in that game. It's such a great resource. We love the guys over at Lightburn. They're doing great things. So, yeah. Let's get this all lined up. pretty good. 0 all. So Scott asked, does that mean that the 3-element lens burns hotter than standard? Is that why the fire test, the first test with your typical settings was torching it? I actually think it, first I think we were just out of focus. We were slightly out of focus. So the heat was transferring more as like a burn. And then also I believe because it's more, you get a more finer burn, it is capable of engraving things a little bit darker, I think so, because each dot is going to be a little bit smaller. So if your settings are aligned for it, you actually can get, quote unquote, more power out of it because the dots are smaller, it's more fine, it's more focused. And then also I think we were just very out of focus. I think I just haven't actually focused a 3-element lens in a long time, and I had it way not out of focus. And then also, I think, yeah, the power was just a little bit too high for this material. So that would be my guess originally. The dot being smaller means that you have to adjust for different settings, and that you actually could get like a darker burn with the same settings, right? Because I always said like the G2, the G7, the G8 have more efficient power transfer, so more power is actually leaving the lens than the 3-element, but the 3-element is a finer focus, so you do actually sometimes get an easier time getting darker burns with the same settings, or sometimes with certain materials you even get you're even able to cut easier. Yeah, the detail is crazy, guys. Oh, I'll show you guys. Well, this number 5 is okay. First, let's set up a number 6 so we're ready for when this job finishes. So 1.6 we're doing 1.6 we're doing power at 25 because it's a grayscale and it's going to be just going to stay on and vary power. Speed we're going to do 40. Same thing here, we're doing 25 and 40. So speed 40, max power 25. And then we're doing grayscale actually. All right, so that matches the settings, 40, 25. Oh, just had this in reverse. This is 25 power, 40 speed. This is 25 power, 40 speed. Okay, this is good. So we can save this as 1.6. So that's ready to run. And then I will show you guys what this first one looks like. So it's actually Jarvis. It actually cut off because I put the text a little bit too big. So I should write down so I don't forget. Yeah, 3-element is really, that fineness is really good. Really, you can get away with just the G2 and the 3-element realistically. You don't need all the lenses. I think the 3-element, if I was just going to get one lens, I might get the G7 as just a 1, or the G8 as just a 1. But if I was going to get 2 lenses, I would just get a 3-element and a G2. So here, let's see if you guys can see that. So I will focus. See, you can see some really cool detail with the 3-element. You can see like the ridges on the burn and stuff. But like I said, there's not enough detail in this darker area. That's why I was playing with different settings, because I want to get more detail to pop in that darker area. And it might just be the image, right? Like you can also process the image better. I can play with the contrast to get better, a better outlook. But that's what that looks like. And we have 5. We'll have 5 more before the stream ends. So, oh, we have 50. We're at 52 minutes. So we are almost done the stream. I'm gonna try to get the last 2 done. So we need some settings for the last job. So we'll start with our first one, and we'll try to optimize our first one a little bit better. So maybe for this one, we'll actually play with the contrast. So we'll adjust the image. Hey, 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 leave it alone. Zeus is trying to bite wires, okay? Get out of there. So let's see if we can up the contrast just a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna wanna lower the DPI. That's Dana's recommendation. So honestly, I think there, and then going contrast heavy, and then lowering the brightness a bit. So we don't want the darks to be too dark anywhere, so we're gonna play with the gamma. So we don't even want the couch or his nose to get too dark. Want there to be a nice little change. Yeah, okay, that should be good. And then we had Jarvis, so we'll go back to our first one. So yeah, Zeus is the real star. I know that's why you guys tune in, you know, to hear his little patas tit and tat in the background. So we're going Jarvis. This is going to be 1.7. Let me start the next job while we do this, so it's running while we edit. All right. Zero all. This is 1.5, so now we're opening up 1.6. That's the grayscale one. That one might come out the worst, but we'll let it rock. And then this is going to be our last one of the night. So let's lower the DPI to what Dana suggested, which is 180. And then we have our original power was set to 50. I actually will leave the same power as our first job because I want to see what the image processing. Oh, is that? Hey, Zeus. Hey there. Everybody. Oh, wrong way. Okay, there we go. Now you can see him. How you doing, Zeus? Let's see if we can get him on the couch. Up. Hey. Hey. Can I get your paw? Oh. He heard something at the door. Oh, he wants the ball. He's very sorry. Sorry, this stream is interrupting our game of fetch right now. So I have to pay the toll, okay? You guys see him with his ball? You guys see him with his ball? You know, we're all just living in Zeus's world, okay? We're all NPCs. He's the main character. This whole stream is just interrupting a 3-year game of catch or fetch. Okay, he's just chilling. He's waiting for it all to be over. We're gonna run this one last project, and then we're gonna call it a day. It's gonna be the last project that we're running on this one. Then I'm gonna get out of here. So everything else, all we did was change the. Yeah, you're right, Doug. I think I'm being Pavloved here, okay? I think every other job, we kept the image the same, and we changed settings. But this version 1.7, our last one, is going to be the only one where we kept the settings the same as this first one. So 50% power, 40 millimeters per second, DPI 180, image style Jarvis, and but I reprocessed the image. I reprocessed the image to try to get a better output. So everything else is see what happens when we change settings. This one is going to be see what happens when we change our image processing. So guys, when I say like, hey, you have very different options. You can change dip switch. You can change light burn settings. You can change image processing, so like what the image actually looks like, right? And all three of those things will have an effect on what actually outputs. And you can change lens, right? And so you have all these variables. And in a perfect world, for every material that you use, you would have one of these little test cards that you could make for yourself, and you would know exactly what it is, and you have them all on the wall or something, or in a book, and you just look at it and be like, oh yeah, this is the type of output I want, so I need this lens with this power, with this DPI, with this whatever, blah, 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 run it down the list, and then you'd be able to recreate all these different things. And if you go really intense, you can make that for different materials that you commonly use. So you would just know, oh, I'm working with maple today, and I want it to look like this. So you go to the maple section of your test files, and you'd be like, okay, yeah, I want it to look like exactly this one on maple, and then you just take the settings, run that, and you're good to go. And then you can save the settings within Lightburn so that you just go like, oh, maple finish 1, maple finish 2, maple finish 3, and then you don't even need all these settings. You can just put maple finish 1, right? You could label it maple finish 1, right? And it aligns with the title in your Lightburn settings when you save settings. And then you don't even have to write all these things like version and blah, 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 blah. You can just put maple version 1, and then you be like, oh yeah, I want maple version 1, and then you just go to your settings library and click maple version 1. So the second last one, this is grayscale. I don't like grayscale for most things because it's always on, and all it's doing is turning things up and down, and it's never actually turning things off, which creates this really cool image pattern that actually makes it easier to see. With grayscale, it's actually much harder to see. So when I was originally testing the SLB, I had a bunch of these test files, and I made a bunch of these test files, and you can see that like grayscale is just because it's not turning on and off, it's just sometimes it's a little bit harder to see, right? So like this is a grayscale image. You can just see that it's like a lot of power because it never actually turns off, you know, versus something like this where you can actually see the wood because it's turning on and off. So if something's white, then it turns it off and it's the color of the wood. But even in grayscale, like it's just going up and down in terms of power variability. So I don't use grayscale very often, but it does have a really cool effect. When you can get an image that aligns with what grayscale does really well, you actually do end up getting a really cool output. So although it's difficult to use, or it's more difficult to use than Stucky or Jarvis, for the right project, it will create something like absolutely beautiful. Like, so, you know, try new things, experience the world, okay? Taste the rainbow of laser settings, okay? So this is our last job. This is 1.7, so it's a bit brighter. We changed the contrast a little bit, the gamma, and then we wanted the absolute darkest part of this image is in between his ear here, his nails, and on his nose, his little snout here. The couch is no longer just as dark as everything else, so things should be easier to see, and we should be able to get more detail. So I'll save this as 1.7. And when this is finished, we'll run this, and then that's going to be the end of the stream, guys. Okay, this one is a little bit more technical, a little bit more boring. We might get more into these. I might start taking tickets. I might start taking issues, customer issues that I'm seeing in our tickets, and I might start answering them on the live stream and solving issues on the live stream, because then I can end up cutting this video as and start making like a library of troubleshooting options for you guys. So that's kind of my next project. Once we get the magnetic mount out, my next project is going to be creating a better way to help you guys with your laser issues, because right now it's usually just me emailing myself and Jen, and then at a certain point, if we can't solve it over the email, you guys are setting up video calls with me, and it's very time consuming sometimes, and I love doing it, but if we can find a more efficient way to help you guys when you guys have like these very difficult laser issues, then that's a best case scenario for me. So, you know, I'm going to be trying new things to try to get as much information out there regarding the laser as possible over the next year and a bit. So this job is finishing up, and then we're going to run the last one. So let's get this all lined up. All right. Zero it all. Get the new file in here, 1.7. And let's see how this one ends up looking. So this is going to be our last one here. All right, so I'm getting a little bit of leakage of the smoke, so I'm just going to open up a window. Some air in. So guys, thank you so much, Bill, for the reminder. Let's give myself and the big boss, Zeus, a like. How you doing, buddy? Come here. There he is. Let's give Zeus a round of applause because we are interrupting his playtime, okay? Let's be real. We're interrupting his playtime. Grr. Grr, grr, grr. Drop it. Hey, drop it now. Let go. Thank you. Sit. Good boy. Go get it. Come on. Bring it here. All right. Look at this little demon over here, okay? I'm training him to be a killer. Grr, 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 grr. Okay, relax, 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 relax. Drop it. Good boy. Hey, leave it. Good boy. Sit. All right. All right, that's enough for now, okay? We'll play some more catch later. There he goes, to his spot on my shoulder. Okay, so I feel like this engraving that's going right now, version 1.7, looks the best. Because I think it was like the image was just a little bit too dark, so I was trying to compensate for image processing issues with settings, actually, but I was going to get a better output by just playing with the image processing and the settings, of course, because even now that looks good, but I could continue to dial it in by playing with the settings now that I like the image processing, right? And it's just a game of preference and changing things up and seeing how it looks and, you know, just seeing which sliders you want to play with, right? Until you're just like extremely happy with the output. So it's a little bit subjective. So yeah, I'm very proud of our co-op student, Beku, because he designed this, and I gave him some pointers in the beginning, but at a certain point he kind of took over and redesigned what I thought it should look like, and kind of came up, when we said we wanted a much bigger plate, he kind of came up with this 5 magnet design that simplified the supply chain because he used the same drag chain, or sorry, the same magnet as the dust shoe mount. So now even our supply chain is a little bit, it stays very simple with producing this, where we have these little studs for aligning the laser. It bolts in the same 2 laser holes, the original mount, and then you have a bunch of magnets that slap onto the steel plate, whether you have the original mount or the version 1 mount, the version 2 mount, or even the Vortex mount. It's all good, and I really like this. It feels very solid because it's a thick piece of a 3D print, right, with a lot of infill. It feels very solid. The magnets give it some good weight, right, and it's pretty powerful in terms of its sticking power. It aligns, it faults where the actual mount faults, which is around 5,000 millimeters per minute, right? Which is a great sign. And you just, so when you're done, you just unplug the connector and then you tilt it and then pops right off, right? So our next stream, I'll probably have the more final design. Oh yeah, I can. I'll give one to Scott so he can test one out when he's playing around. But probably next stream I'll have a final design. I'll take a Baku's design, which is like already 90% done. I might change a few things, might not, might just be good to go. And I'll actually slap it on here, and I'll do like a week of testing on my own, so that when I release it, I feel pretty comfortable with it. So very excited for that. We're just about to finish our last one of the night. I'll show you guys the results, and then I'm going to get out of here, okay? Any objections? Okay, we're good. So where's version 1? I think I lost version 1. Where did I put it? Oh, I mixed it up with the other test files. All right, so let's grab all our pieces. And let's show you guys the results. So let's go in order. So I'll show you guys 1.2, which was like actually our first one that worked. This is 1.2. Really good, but the black areas are really dark, so it's hard to see the contrast. These are the settings. Then let's see 1.3. So this was the newsprint, which I told you guys looks really cool. You guys can kind of see. Newsprint has these like really cool designs, so let's try to, there we go. Yeah, that looks better. So yeah, this is that newsprint design, version 1.3. You see better contrast here with less power. Right, so let's go to 1.4. So this is Stucky, a little bit more power, raise the DPI. So that's, honestly, I think the newsprint looks better than that, to be honest. I think we'd get better results by lowering the power on this, but it's all just I guess. So that looks like, okay, let's look at 1.5. So this is Dither. So again, I think we're running into like the darks, the blacks are too black in the contrast, and it's not giving us the pop on the image. Okay, it's 1.5. So let's take a look at 1.6. So this is grayscale, and like I said, this just wasn't the image for it, right? You almost have no detail because the image actually doesn't turn off, like the engraving doesn't turn off, it just varies the power. So you can barely see anything with this. So grayscale, this was not the image for grayscale. This 1.6, and then the last one, 1.7, will compare to the first one because this is the difference in image processing, right? So all the difference here, it's the same settings, just different image processing. So you can see 1.7, same settings. It's a bit light though. So because I changed the contrast, we lost a little bit of detail. But in this one, because the contrast was so heavy, we lost a little bit of detail in the dark. And in this one, we lost some detail in the light. So I'd probably raise the settings on this one, raise the power on this one, and lower the power on this one. And then we might be able to like get like pretty similar results just by changing settings. But definitely playing with the image processing can get you better results there. But it's all preference. Some people might like the light. Some people might like the darker contrast. But all right. So that was 6 different settings, same image, 6 different settings. Hopefully you guys learned something. hopefully you guys try this out and build a better understanding of what your laser can do for you with different materials and settings and all that fun stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your help. You guys have been great in the chat. Dana, thank you so much. Doug, thank you so much. Scott, thank you so much for joining. Bill, thank you so much. Who else we got? Jack in the shop, thank you for joining. Kenny's, thank you for joining. Nicholas, thank you. If you're still in here, thank you so much. Bill S., thank you so much. Please like up the stream before we end. That would be absolutely appreciated. And you know the deal. My name is Ikenna Ofoha for CNC Labs. And you know the deal. Whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, or night, I appreciate you spending just a little bit of your time with me. Hans, thank you so much for joining. I also agree. I think 1.7 looks great. I think I would up the power on 1.7. But you guys are the best. You guys are the reason I do this. I'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll be running the magnetic mount. Okay? So really exciting stuff. We'll be doing some tests on there. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch you in 2 weeks. All right. You guys have a good night.